I've always been a fan of Casio and G-Shock. The design language, how a user interacts with the watch, the menus, the features. But I think a brand did it better, and it wasn't Casio or G-Shock. Hello, watch people. Thank you for watching the internet with me. And today we're talking about digital watches, and more specifically, how a user interacts with the different features and the design language of digital watches. Now, this can boil down to personal preference. For me, it's always been Timex. My Timex Ironman Classic 30 that I got back when I was 10 years old, I think had better features on it than what Casio was doing at the time. And I think still to this day, I prefer the Timex setup menus and the usability and the features in the digital watches in the Ironman than I do in probably most Casios. I have two watches here. I have a G-Shock and my Ironman. We're going to dive down and kind of tell you what I'm talking about. Let's take it to the table. All right, so this is what I'm kind of talking about. So on my left, I have the GW6900 G-Shock, okay? And on my right, I have my Timex Ironman Classic 30. I've had this watch since I was 9. I'm 41 now, so it's been through a couple strap changes, lots of battery changes. And I know this is like kind of comparing some different types of watches, but the Ironman and the G-Shock, to me, have always kind of been synonymous with each other. Timex has tried over the years to come out with something like the G-Shock, but they've, the Commander series, the UFC series is kind of weird. It's always been the Ironman for me. But this watch came out like way before this watch did. I mean, even the DW6900, the predecessor to this one, was pretty basic. As far as when you're comparing features, this one had a ton more features than the DW6900, or pretty much, I mean, a lot of the Casios at the time. This was doing it better, and let me show you why. On most modern Casios, G-Shocks, this module is pretty common, or the design. When I say design language, it's how you navigate. This is always mode. This is always adjust. The stopwatch usually operates in the exact same way, typically, depending on models. But it's always a press and hold here, and you're going through the menus here, and pretty. For every G-Shock or regular Casio watch, this is always going to be kind of how you do it. You're just moding through it, and sometimes if you have a lot of buttons or a complicated setup, it can be kind of confusing. The Timex has always had, well, at least in the Ironman, they've always had this nice setup menu where it tells you done, next, plus, minus. And it always had at least all the Ironmans that I've seen have always had a dual time, something that the DW6900 didn't have. And so that's how you would go through it. And then, you'd never get confused as to what button you have to do to actuate whatever function. And just the way the menu was set up, it was very easy to navigate. It was always, this was a big deal back in the day. A lot of even Casio stuff that gets sold now didn't allow you to flip the day in the month or the month of the day. They were doing this back in the 90s with the Ironman. And, you did have to come into the menu to turn the chime on or the beep on. But it was very easy to navigate. It was very intuitive, I think. And then you were good. Now, I actually don't have a lap stopwatch from Casio at all, but you can see when we go in here, this is just like your standard, going to be your standard stopwatch. Start, stop, reset, right? No real functions to speak of on it. This one always lets you know, it always said chrono, which was cool. And I don't know, I just liked the layout a little bit better, especially when you're splitting. This one actually records your laps, but what was cool about this one was when you reset it, and you held down adjust, you could go in and tell if you wanted a lap or a split watch, and then you had your recall function with 30 entries. But I don't know, I just liked the layout of it a little bit better. And you can see even when you're in recall mode, it still gives you done, next, plus, minus, so you know how to navigate through your entries. But what was really cool about Timex is that if you start the stopwatch and you get out of it, okay, you go back to normal timekeeping. You see that little stopwatch indicator right there? When I start this off, okay, and this little animation dial is going crazy up here, right? When I get back out of it, oh, sorry, and go to normal timekeeping, there's no indication that the chronograph is running. What I always thought Casio should do with models that have multiple subdials like this is make this keep going to tell you that the chronograph is running, because Timex was doing it way back in the day. Now the same can be said for the timer. Start the timer off here. Okay, and it's going down. Get back to normal timekeeping. You have an hourglass up there that lets you know your timer's running. And with this one, what I always thought was cool was the subdial will actually start counting backwards, right? But when you get out of it, the subdial, I mean, I just always, I mean, I love looking at animations on my watches, but I always thought they could have done more. It just, if you saw it going backwards, you'd know that your timer was running. Now, I will say in the little brother to this, the DW6900, and I'm just comparing these two just because I have these two, but you can really compare any Casio to any Timex. I mean, they're all going to be kind of the same, differently the same, if you get what I mean. But they've always had a pretty good alarm. This one has 5 alarms and a snooze. But on the DW6900, you were actually able to set a weekly alarm, a month alarm. You could set it for the 19th of September, and it would go off then. It was kind of clunky to set, though. But the Iron Man had, I mean, it was very easy. Oop, that's the light. It was very easy to do on and off with the button. But when you went in to set it, again, the setup menu, you could go up here and do daily, weekends, weekdays. This was a little bit more, well, it was way easier to set. And it just was a little bit, it wasn't as clunky. If you just wanted some different options on how your alarm was working, it just wasn't as clunky as trying to set a specific date, scrolling through different numbers and going over. This was just a lot of bit easier just to kind of go through, to have a couple options with alarms. This one only has 1 alarm, but there are other Ironmans with like 3 alarms, and they were all the same, days, weekends, whatever. Now these two watches have the exact same feature where when you push the light and hold it, the auto backlight comes on, and they work a little differently. I think I prefer probably still this one to this one. The way this one works is if you press and hold the light button right here, you'll see a little thing come down right up here and say the auto backlight's on. So when you're flipping the watch on your wrist, the light comes on, right? Okay, that's pretty cool. But when you're navigating through the modes, no light. When you press and hold the Indiglow, you get a little night mode indicator right there. Now this one doesn't flip when you go to look at it, but what it does do is every time you press a button, now the light will be illuminated. So this is great for like if you're timing stuff in the dark, or I think it was just a little bit better to use, because now every button press you're getting a light where you don't even have to hold the light anymore. So I hope that gives you a little bit better idea of Timex's idea of how some of these features should work versus pretty much all of Casio. And don't get me wrong, I love all the G-Shock and Casio releases from all the way back in the day. I just think Timex did a little bit better job of making it a little bit more intuitive for the user. So I hope that was interesting comparison. Until next time, thanks for watching the internet. Take care.